a while since I did a live video for the law office of Travell Travis, your low-cost, high-quality law firm. We specialize in the needs of pastors, creatives, entrepreneurs, and members of the community. And so I wanted to do a live video. I'm actually coming to you live from my hometown of Martinsville, Virginia. But more importantly, I'm coming to you from the spot where my great-grandparents' house once stood. Show them real quick. Okay. So this land has been in my family for over 100 years. My great-grandparents, William McKinley Dillard and Harriet Staples Dillard, they built their first home on this very lot. And not only did they own this particular lot, as you can see, they own the land from here all the way down. You can see the steeple where the church, High Ridge Missionary Baptist Church. They own the land on the opposite side of the street, which they sold to Mr. Mitchell and here Mr. Smith. But also the land goes all the way back on this side, down the hill, down to the creek that runs behind the land, all the way to the church. And I present that to you today to talk to you in particular about estate planning. I'm very appreciative for the foresight that my great-grandparents had. When you have land, and many of you, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, had farms, maybe they had homes or businesses. And so the question is there a plan in place for when they pass away? What will happen to that property when the time should come that the Lord calls them home? And so I'm appreciative because my great-grandparents had the foresight to give the land to their 7 children. They had 7 children, and they took this farmland and split it up between the 7 children. So each house represents a member of the family. So the first house is my cousin. The next house is my grandmother. She's 88. She's lived on this tract of land all her life. That's all she knows. The next house is her sister. Next house is her brother. There's an empty lot. One of my aunts didn't take their lot. Then my uncles has a lot. And then there's a lot after that. That's my cousin's, but it was also designated for one of my grandmother's siblings. But then even behind, there's another row where my mother's house is. And you see a shop that's fallen in. But some 40 years ago, my grandfather had a paving business. All these dumpsters and trucks lined up across there. And then that stretches all the way as another row of land, if you will, that goes behind these row of houses all the way to the church that's owned by my family. And I say that not to brag or boast about my grandparents, their wealth, or the fact that they gave my grandparents and my great aunts and uncles land, or my parents' land. But I want to stress the importance of having a plan. Their plan was to give the land away. And so they gave out these lots while they were still alive. But you have that as an option. You can give the property away while you're alive. You can have a will that puts the property, and you devise who's going to get what after you pass away. The land could be held in a trust. So maybe perhaps you're going to grow timber, crops, build rental properties, and the family could live off the proceeds from that land. You could sell the land and then put the money in a trust and allow the children or grandchildren to have money for college or down payment on their home, or to start a business. But the one thing you don't want to happen is to allow it to just merely slip into the hands of one generation to the next generation to the next generation. Unfortunately, a tremendous amount of wealth in the Black community is lost every year simply because we don't have a plan in place. And so what would have happened if my great-grandparents had not allocated the land? It would have first went to their 7 children. At this point, my grandmother's the only living sibling of the 7. And so she would have been the co-owners of the land with all of her nieces and nephews. And I can't tell you how many plus 7, 17, plus 2, 19, plus 2, 21, plus, anyway, you're probably talking about 30 grandchildren. And then I come along as great-grandchildren. And then my daughters now are great-great-grandchildren. Imagine trying to come up with a plan to deal with all this land between people that are now second, third, fourth generation. I have cousins I've never met. I have cousins I don't even know. I have cousins that if I saw them in the street and they said hello to me, I probably wouldn't even know they were my blood relative. Don't hate me for that. You got family members in the same. And so what I want to encourage you as we are in this fall season, transition of seasons, as we're closing out 2020, I want to encourage you to make a resolution. Not only do a physical examination, a physical checkup, but to do a health checkup, to examine your estate plan. Is there a will in place to determine who gets what, when I pass away? Is there a power of attorney in place that if I become incapacitated before I pass away, I have someone that can handle my business affairs while I'm alive, but not able to handle them myself? Do I have a living will that determines, do I want any type of life-sustaining measures to keep me alive? Perhaps I'm alive, but I'm unconscious, incapacitated, on life support measures. Do I have a plan in place in writing that's going to tell me, or tell my family members, what are my wishes in terms of end of life? Is there a healthcare directive? And sometimes they go together, but the healthcare directive is intended if it's not necessarily end of life, but you're incapacitated and not able to make decisions for yourself. Who do you want making those tough decisions? Who's rational enough? Who's compassionate enough? Who has enough faith, in those moments to decide, okay, this is what we're going to do under the circumstances? Do you have life insurance? Not only do you have it, but is it enough to do and accomplish the things that you want? Is it merely just to bury you? Or is it enough to be a generational game changer for your family? To have enough to pay off any existing debts? To make sure your children have enough money for college? That you have enough money to make sure that your spouse can live comfortably for the rest of their lives? And so I want to encourage you in this season of pandemic, in this season of COVID, in this season of so much death and illness, that this is a season that you make sure that you are proactive and that you actually put together your estate plan. Not only will it alleviate stress on you, alleviate stress on your remaining spouse, it alleviates stress perhaps on your children, but perhaps it could also set up your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. I'm standing on the land of people I've never met, but because they had the foresight of what to do with the land while they were yet alive. Will your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren receive an inheritance? Will you position them for financial success? Will you position them for spiritual success? Will you position them so that perhaps they don't have to start where you started, but that perhaps they can start at a couple steps further along? So once again, thank you for viewing this live video, coming to you live from Martinsville, Virginia, Carver Road, Route 684, the property that was owned by my great-grandparents, William and Harriet Dillard, now occupied by my family for over 100 years. And so if you need help with forming an estate plan, I invite you to contact the law office of Travell Travis. Our telephone number, 757-528-8529. You can email us at travelltravis@gmail.com. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as YouTube. You can visit our website, travelltravis.com. These videos are for educational and is not intended to necessarily be direct legal advice, but if you need our assistance, we'd be more than happy to help you or perhaps point you in the direction of someone you can. May God bless you, and have a great afternoon.